So I'm delighted to welcome Ben to our webinar today. So this is our 17th webinar, and it's really nice that Ben is our last speaker of the season to kind of cap off in a really positive project that's been happening. So Ben is a PhD student from Texas Tech University in the USA, doing his work in Nigeria, and he's also a director for the Small Mammal Conservation Organization, which he'll be introducing to you shortly. So thank you very much, Ben. Over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Just a minute, let me share this. Just thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm very excited to be, talking about capacity building. It's a topic I'm so passionate about. And I thank everyone who has logged in this morning it's morning here in Lubbock, and I guess it's evening for most people, or afternoon. Thank you for logging in to hear about our work in Nigeria and what we have learned in the past couple of years. But first, I would reintroduce myself. Like Rachel said, my name is Ben. I am the Director of Conservation Programs for Small Mammal Conservation Organization in Nigeria, and I'm also a PhD student here in Lubbock, Texas Tech University at Kingston Lab. And my research, I am a conservation ecologist, and my research mainly focuses on trying to understand how bats respond to human disturbance. I study specifically how fruit bat species respond to hunting disturbance in southern Nigeria in terms of their population, their roosting ecology, and as well as the behavioral dimension, trying to understand what drives people to hunt bats and consume bat meat. But today, I'm going to be talking to you about capacity building in West Africa, and also introduce you to what we have been doing for the past couple of years and what has worked. Okay, so of course, the biodiversity crisis has been a major concern for everyone. Species are lost, and it's even getting more intense. But perhaps the most problematic is the taxonomic impediment, where species go extinct long even before they are described. And this has led to this has led to the call for capacity building, especially in developing countries. And these regions, developing countries, hold most of the world's biodiversity, of course we know. And interestingly, they are suffering the greatest biodiversity loss. Yet, they lack the capacity to solve the problem. They have the least capacity, even though they are suffering the most biodiversity loss. So Paul Bates in his plenary at the IBRC in Durban in 2016. And for those who were there, you remember his elegant talk where he laid out what the frontiers of bat research would be. He made some very fantastic, but sometimes graphic comparisons which he graciously shared with me. Thank you, Paul, if you're here, which I have also updated here. I'm going to show you a few of those. So you see, this is a graph showing species description, in both South America and continental Africa. These are the tropics. So you see here, by 1982, Africa had more species were being described in Africa than in Southern America. But as research interest grew in Southern America and accumulated a vast body of work, this led to a very sharp increase in number of species described in South America, and eventually surpassing Africa somewhere around the early 2000s. Well, if we zoom in the two most diverse regions of these two continents, the difference between the number of species described in both continents become even stark. So here we'll be comparing number of species described. This is bat species, by the way. Number of bat species described from the tropical Andes as against those described in West Africa. You see, the West Africa is looks more gradual, but you see how the increase has been, sharp in tropical Andes. As people get more interested in bat research in this region, and interest grew. But let's not forget that West Africa is predicted to have the largest, that's been the most diverse region in Africa in terms of bat diversity. You see this region, beautiful map by Hecht et al. You see this region, this region here have the most bats. And this is a prediction, right? Species distribution model. And you would also see here that bat research has been going on for quite some time in West Africa. I mean, in Nigeria, it goes way back to 17th century, 18th century. And this is not just all biologists making all these collections and studying bats in this region. It also includes gracious European missionaries who, in their own words, devoted their life to what they call the amelioration of the African Negro. This is really exciting. So, so research, has been going on in West Africa for a very long time, for centuries, at least two centuries, in bat research. And you would think that by now, I mean, this is at least 2 centuries, right? You would think that by now, bat species richness in this region would have plateaued by now. The accumulation curve, would have plateaued by now, but no, the species accumulation for Nigeria and Congo, for example, are consistently, you see that, consistently increasing, telling us that there is inadequate, perhaps, research in this area. We need more capacity. We need to sample more. We need to do more research in this area. And even though we have had all these centuries of research, they are mostly descriptive. Descriptive research. Okay, so I collected 2 bats from here. It's this and it's that. So mostly no serious conceptual basis for this research. Well, this problem is not just limited to bats. Okay, it's a general problem. So generally, biodiversity research in West Africa has hardly progressed beyond the descriptive level of no serious conceptual basis for this research. And that's why it was, such a fantastic move by Bat Conservation Africa, Bat Conservation International, when they launched BCA, the Bat Conservation Africa. Fantastic initiative in 2013. So this is a network, for people who don't know, this is a network for bat workers across the continent. And the aim was mainly to break isolation, get people together, network, and to foster collaboration. And also build capacity. And intuitively, West Africa was identified as an important priority because it had this research void. So it was agreed to focus on West Africa, not just because it has the highest, predicted to have the highest diversity, but because also there is paucity in capacity, in country capacity. To also, buttress this, here shows, between 2000 and 2016, these are papers, description, species descriptions coming from Africa between 2000 and 2016. You see local co-authors, right? Species described. Local first authors, 0. So this is a sad situation. So there is no in-country people doing the actual work. So sometimes what we see is people contributing, for example, to field sampling or collaboration in logistics or helping to get permits. And in the end, they are gifted authorship. They are gifted authorship. So we do not have first authors describing bats. So this is just one metric of showing how bat research is progressing in this region. But why, the question is, why are we still lacking capacity after centuries and centuries of research? Well, if we start talking about, all the reasons, perhaps this would take hours, but I'm just going to perhaps just focus on one, 2 important ones. I'm just going to gloss over, what everybody knows, just local interest in research across the continent, across West Africa. This is Nigeria, for example, 2021 budget. Nigeria's budget just 5.6% of its budget for 2021 goes to education, and that comes down to a paltry $1.5 billion. So it just tells the whole story. But we know, that's the major problem people are having. But beyond that, organizations, NGOs understand this, and all hands are on deck to, well, not just to ignore the government, but to, complement whatever little they are doing greatly. But this is not really what we are talking about today. But the major concern here is, what I call the convenience of bat catchers, and what Paul Haber called parachute science, where perhaps foreign scientists, experts, come into other countries and, do research and disappear, and perhaps just have one local person who perhaps helped catch the bats, or who helped with logistics, and then they get authorship and then they leave. So the idea is, you get into a new country, you get a field assistants, you teach them, how to catch bats or how to retrieve bats from net, and then you give them anti-rabies vaccine, and then they are very good. They make your work very easy without having without contributing conceptually to the project. So in this case, they are not really collaborators, they're just field assistants or technicians. And this is one of the major problems we're having in West Africa. But then the fundamental question is, how do we then raise bat biologists instead of these bat catchers or technicians, or whatever you choose to call them? But the good thing is, we have good models. We have good examples from, all over the place. And in Southeast Asia, there are beautiful, I'm sure there are beautiful models and beautiful stories from lots of places and lots of organizations, but I'm just going to show a few here who we have been able to learn from, and we have been able to adapt some of their methods, and it has worked fantastically well. So the Southeast Asia Bat Conservation Research Unit, CBCRU, they were established, I think, in 2007 or thereabout, 2007, yes, and they focus on training and supervising students and providing them support. And it's also a forum for bat researchers across the region, Southeast Asia, to come together and then form collaborations and share knowledge. And in a few years, Southeast Asia, the CBCRU that just started with a few people in one room, they now hold conferences with more than 100 people in attendance. That's a huge capacity for bat research. And these are mostly very fine scientists. Imagine what that does. Imagine the ripple effect, when they reach the critical mass, these people go ahead and mentor others, and it's a domino effect. Another good example is in the same Southeast Asia. I'm jealous. The Harrison Institute, they perhaps have slightly different model. They're more focused with seeing students through a degree, a graduate degree program. So this has been so successful that they have so far co-supervised more than 20 graduate students. This is a huge success, in my opinion. So the important thing here is they co-supervise. This goes beyond workshops. Like everyone has. They keep supporting their students throughout the degree. We also have a very beautiful and proud example in Nigeria. The AP Leventis Ornithological Institute. From 2001, they have trained more than 120 West African students. So these are students from across the West African sub-region. Every year they take students on scholarship. This is a resident program where the students come in and they are provided all the funding they need. They bring in experts from all over the world for the different programs. This includes, but majorly, conservation biology. So you can be studying different species, but mostly their students, because this is an ornithological institute, mostly their students study birds. So they are doing a fantastic job, and also they keep supporting the students even when they leave, in terms of providing them sometimes scholarships to go on and get a PhD from great institutions across the world. And then I'm going to talk to you about what we have learned and our model in small mammal conservation organization. So this is a pretty simple model. And here will be the people we target. And these are the kinds of, the rectangles are the kinds of support we provide to these people. So we target undergraduate students. This is the easiest, well, the best time to try to get their interest. In Nigeria, we have a problem of students not interested in biodiversity research. And this is because mainly Nigeria is an oil-driven economy. People want to help their families and they want to work in the oil companies or big engineering firms, banks, and all that. So you see someone who studied zoology end up as a banker and, all that. So we try to focus also on undergraduate students at that point. So these parts of the model right here are when we are in the field, right? When we have research projects, we take undergraduate students, we take postgraduate students as volunteers and also park rangers. These people are exposed, the undergraduate students, we expose them to research and most times blow their mind and all that. So when we encourage them, if they end up taking up, we encourage them to go to grad school. And when they do that, we continue supporting them. If they keep showing curiosity and interest, they end up in becoming part of our student fellowship. Some of them can go on to become university lecturers, and sometimes university lecturers who are taking postgraduate degrees also join us in the field. Okay, for rangers, these are mostly what you would call, the typical bat catchers, because they are rangers, they have a job, so you train them and they have to be with you in the field. So you train them and then they are good, they keep working with you. But what that means is, they just work with you without knowing exactly what they are doing, even though they know the skills. So what we have done was to target specific rangers who have the aptitude, and then we support them for their encourage them to go for postgraduate degrees, and when they do, we continue supporting them so that in the end, we would like to have rangers having species lists of national parks and doing, of course, exciting research in the national parks. And then the students, this is the most exciting part for me, because you take them to the field, the undergraduate students, this is something they have never seen before. The stuff of wildlife documentaries, National Geographic. So their minds are blown and they get curious. And it's exciting. I would really love to share some of their excitement. I hope this plays.
This is the first time in my life that I'm entering field to carry out this research work, and I never know it can be so fun and
I practically can write about. I know plenty things about bats. In fact, I dream about bats these days. The other night, I was dreaming about Nigeria.
I've really learned to be able to think and ask interesting scientific questions. Like from the project, the way Miss Rowe linked bats with insects, she was also looking at the different diversity across different elevations. So these are quite interesting and quite fascinating scientific research questions to ask.
So yeah, they get their mind blown. But what does that really mean? That doesn't really mean anything if the curiosity and interest, it doesn't mean it's not sustained. So it doesn't really mean anything to get excited. And in the next few months, he is in a banking hall wearing suits and, talking about economics. So you have to keep their interest. And the way we do that is to support them in applying for scholarships, support them in applying for graduate programs in reputable universities, and also introduce them to new opportunities and increasing their network. And in this way, they stay connected and stay curious. And then if they make it to grad school, fantastic. But we also have a support base for postgraduate students, as we call them in Nigeria. So postgraduate students, masters and PhD. And we support them in grant applications. We support them in their projects, give them suggestions, loan them equipment. We have a large pool of equipment, so they don't really need to buy equipment, just to make sure they handle with care. And we also expose them to new research techniques. And the best ones who stay curious and interested apply and are accepted into our fellowship. So the SMACON fellowship is, it includes a workshop, right? That's the first. We have a workshop where we train students. We also give a small grant. We also support them. And then, of course, co-supervision is the most exciting one here. For now, we have two co-supervisors, Dr. Tika Kingston and Dr. Paul Bates. And they have been fantastic in capacity building. They've been successful, and they have been really interested in helping students in West Africa grow. So we were really, really grateful, you know, spending all this time with students back and forth. So these students, you know, get to learn from experts from around the world. So we hope in a few months, we'll be able to have more people sign up to work with our students. So these workshops, I will go a bit, you know, deeper. The training takes, you know, days in the forest. So you learn from BAT 101 to issues in BAT research and things, BAT taxonomy, ecology, disease ecology. We have Dr. Grace Kia from the Virology Institute in Nigeria, who also provides support in disease ecology. So we have all these experts coming in to teach students and also help them, you know, teach them how to apply for grants, competitive grants. And also, every student participating in this workshop goes home with a fully designed project. So before they come in, we encourage them to have a project design, what they are interested in however rudimentary it is. So when they get in, all the experts involved, everybody makes a presentation, and then they get feedback from the experts, and then they refine it and then get more feedback. So everyone leaves with a project. And then we have the small grant where they all go home and then apply for this small grant for their project. And they don't just get these small grants, they get this opportunity for co-supervision throughout this project. And I'll just show some of these people. This is Chidiogo Okoye. She graduated from her master's early this year, studying dietary niche breath in Eidolon. She has finished her project, and she was one of our fellows. We started with Chidiogo from her undergrad, where she volunteered, and she was one of those just speaking a few slides ago. she was so excited, and then she passed through all these processes and got to the final, being one of our fellows. We also we pay close attention to universities. So Elijah Okwano is currently a PhD student at the University of Nigeria and Cong, but interestingly, he is also a lecturer in this institution. So we pay more attention because these people would go on to mentor others. And this is exactly what we want. He's currently working on parasite host interaction in cave dwelling bats in southeastern Nigeria. And then, like I told you a few minutes ago, this is Kadiri, a ranger at Okomu National Park. He's currently studying bat-human interactions for his master's degree program. By the way, they are all supervised by Dr. Tiga Kingston, co-supervised by Dr. Tiga Kingston. So I recognize, of course, that people working in foreign countries are using students. They are already using students as local assistants, and that is a really, really good start. But from literature and my experience working with local students, this hardly translates. It doesn't really always translate to capacity for independent science, right? So what we mostly have is, you end up having, a student, okay, who is very skilled at, catching or trapping bats, and they are so skilled that some of them, they can extract a captured bat with their eyes closed, but really they are incapable of independent research. So in the end, this is not really, really capacity building. So the take home here, all the ranting and preaching has been that it is, of course, no longer ethical to go into other countries to conduct research without building capacity for independent science. And it goes beyond, on end co-authorship. You have them, okay, he's a collaborator, so he becomes a co-author, even when what they just did is help you sometimes get research permits. Did they really end the authorship? So we hope in the next few years across Western Africa, with the level of awareness and the research going on, and perhaps what we are doing in Nigeria can help us build enough capacity in Nigeria that we get to a critical mass where these people go ahead to also mentor others. We have had a lot of support for our workshops, for research, National Geographic, Bat Conservation, Bat Conservation Trust, BCI, and Rufford. They've all been great. I also want to thank everybody at Kingston Lab, especially my undergraduate students who helped crunch some of this data, Anna and Fisayo, Dr. Gizelman for always supporting us, and all these wonderful organizations who have provided us funding to do research in Nigeria. This is the point where I take your questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ben, for a great overview and certainly I think challenges across Africa for sure in terms of capacity strengthening and the need for more people to do that. So I had a question. I was just wondering what you think sort of the role of local museums could do in terms of contributing to capacity strengthening, you know, as a sort of hub for training.
Yeah, it's in fact, we have been, I think for 3 or 4 years now, we have been trying to get a functional natural science museum in southern Nigeria, in Benin, to be precise, University of Benin. What we have realized is most people do not understand the importance of museums. These are places where excellent repositories for excellent research. And we need to have more. I think they have good ones in Kenya and perhaps in South Africa. In Nigeria, for example, we do not, and it's part of the problem, you know, part of the capacity problem. If we have, because a lot of people have collections in Nigeria and then they end up in London, they end up in France, and end up most of these things. You want a collection for Nigeria, you know, to answer some questions, and then you have to ask the natural science laboratory in Texas Tech University to loan you some of these specimens. So we really need to have more in West Africa. But this also goes down to the interest of the government. We really need to come to a point where we will have an understanding with West African governments, you know, where they will fund research, build museums, where local scientists can keep their collections, and build other infrastructure, not just museum. But, you know, thank you for, you know, talking about that. It's an excellent point we have not had for a very long time.
So your next question is from Rich. So he was just asking, are there any long-term monitoring projects that happen in West Africa? So he said, in the UK, we have the National Bat Monitoring Programme, which is a series of very easy bat surveys that anybody can get involved in. The impact of this has a lot of people get their first access to bat conservation through these simple surveys, and then they progress to more advanced careers in bat ecology later on. And I think BCT's NBMP is definitely the data, we're jealous about it all around the world for sure.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yes, in Nigeria, we have the Eidolon Monitoring Group, where we have been monitoring Eidolon populations across southern Nigeria and part of the north for several years now. And that data also goes into, it will soon be made open source. It's coordinated by a group. It used to be coordinated by Jakob, and you know, there are people coordinating, I think, out of Germany, and it will soon be made open source. And this is the first contact for most times undergraduate students, because we have this big roost in cities very close to University of Benin, for example. One is in University of Ife, and you just take students and give them some refreshments, and they spend 2 hours, 3 hours counting bats, and then that's their first research trip, and then they get excited. The next time they want to go to the field and spend 2 weeks in the forest, and it gets more exciting. So yes, we have monitoring programs going on. And in fact, across Africa, Eidolon is being monitored across West Africa and even East Africa. and South Africa, I think. So yes, we have such monitoring group all over the continent.
Excellent, thank you very much. And so we've got a question from Claire, who said, from what I'm hearing, there seems to be a reluctance from the government to admit the days of oil are numbered, and thus there's no encouragement to support natural science study. Comments, everyone. She said, I mean, the West African oil states.
Yeah, so it's just there's no easy solution for this. Even though they see data coming from the rest part of the world, it's in everyone's face that oil is going to be useless in a few years from now. But I mean, they don't, perhaps they don't care anyway, or they have a plan no one knows about. But the entire economy is still hinged on oil. I mean, most our budget in Nigeria is almost entirely funded by oil. So if the oil crashes right now, Nigeria goes into a crisis. So if oil prices crash, we're going to a crisis. That's what happened during the first, when there was when Russia and the Middle East were in conflict, trying to control prices. So the price dropped, and Nigeria we went into a recession in a few months. So they know anyway, but I don't know if they have a plan. Nobody knows if they really have a plan.
Okay, and just a comment actually from Rich says, brilliant, thanks. It's great to hear about the enthusiastic students. And it is really nice, because I know when I started doing some fieldwork, I was trying to get a student project during my PhD in Namibia, and I remember advertising, and I got one person who came forward, and then she got a better project, and bats were not in her forte. So I wonder if sometimes, do you think it's necessarily bats specifically that's difficult, or in Nigeria is it kind of just, I suppose it's really nice for students to have opportunities. I know we had a workshop in Malawi, for early career ecologists, and there was about 30 young people who really had very few opportunities to actually just get together, like you're saying about isolation being a problem. We didn't unfortunately have any bat people, but we had a range of different ecologists, and I just wonder, do you think this is different groups, or is bats particularly difficult?
Bats, well, there are two stages here. Bats are difficult because, I mean, number one, a lot of people think bats are witches in Nigeria. So that's one hurdle you have to get through. But again, biodiversity in general is not attractive. So this also has something to do with the economy. People want to make money and help their families, and studying bats or biodiversity or conservation science, it's not lucrative in Nigeria, if I have to use that Nigerian used word. So people want to work in the oil sector. They want to work in finance and all those places where they get paid more. So how we solve this problem is taking them through this process. If you take a student to the field and show them what's possible, right? It's not just showing them what's possible for you, it's showing them what can be possible for them. I mean, it means you are ready to support them to get funding to do their work. If you have an opportunity, you have to recommend them, because of course you have trained them. You see that they are competent. So they get into these good opportunities, and then they see the record of people who have passed through the project, who has passed through the program, and they are doing really well. They are not poor, but I mean, they are not millionaires, but
Yeah.
they have decent jobs. So this is the way we like to approach it in Nigeria. I mean, I don't know how, I think every country has peculiar problems, but this is the problem we face in Nigeria. So the first is, people get scared about bats, and bats are really, really difficult to study. I mean, birds, you can go with your binoculars and, wear fancy clothes and, and do stuff and still do fantastic research. But most times for bats, you have to spend a month in the forest at a time without network or anything and doing this very heavy. I had a student early this year who was the first time he ever went into a forest. He had a nightmare the first night and woke everyone up because we just got in and everybody was very tired. We decided to sleep that first night, and he woke up in the middle of the night and was shouting, "There's a snake in my tent. There's a snake in my tent." So everyone woke up, and I mean, it was just a nightmare. So people get scared. But yeah, we have found, a way around it, by leading them and showing them example and yeah, mentoring them.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really great, and it's actually quite nice having a group like you have actually. So it's a supportive network, and then also kind of early careers can stay in touch. So we just have a couple more minutes for questions. So do pop anything else in the chat. I was just wondering what your thoughts on of kind of also more collaboration across different African countries. And also, what do you think the challenges are? Certainly, we found that in Southern Africa is, there's some university lecturers who are really keen to start BAT projects, but they just don't have the equipment. So we've had like a loan scheme, but it's quite limited what we have, and sort of older kit that we've very kindly been donated, and we keep trying to get more, but it's also quite difficult sometimes getting equipment and providing training, to people who are kind of quite spread out. So yeah, any insights or advice on that would be great.
Well, I always give the Nigerian example. What we do in Nigeria is, once we certify that, I mean, perhaps you have passed through our project or you have volunteered, because there are very few BAT people in Nigeria. So you have to, before you loan people equipment, you have to know that they're able to use it, right? So, but for these people, we have an open door policy where we make sure we have about 15, currently we have about 15 hub traps and 13 are functioning. So we give this to students. Sometimes they mess it up, but we teach them how to perhaps repair. So we have an open door policy. We loan equipment, and this goes from hub traps, GPS, data loggers, all sorts of equipment. Well, but that's one part. But then I think mostly for that does not do everything. These are just equipment. How about it's expensive to do research. You go into the field and you pay whoever people helping you. Sometimes I'm in the field. I have 15 people in my team. You have to pay these people. So just giving people equipment is not enough, right? So I think the major thing for especially people in the academia is grant writing skills, right? People need to be taught how to write competitive grants, because research is expensive. Otherwise, we just end up doing, okay, I went to Zambia and then I caught 3 bats. And so we keep doing descriptive studies. But so I think one of the major things is to teach people how to write competitive grants. We do that in 2 universities in Nigeria, where we occasionally hold grant writing workshops, give them teach them how to apply to perhaps a Rafford, National Geographic, and all the small grants. And then if they get successful, their confidence grows and they become, they improve their skills and all that. Then another problem, so this is in-country collaboration, right? But then across country, so inter-country collaboration, where one of the problems we're having in West Africa is the language barrier. I mean, I spent 6 months, right, learning French, and it was a mess. After 2 years of not communicating with anybody, I lost almost everything. So it's the language thing is a serious barrier for collaboration within the West African sub-region. But I think I encourage people to learn, if you're French, and to learn English as much as you can. And then if you're English, to learn French. I'm still working on my French right now, because I really, really want to collaborate collaborate across West Africa. And this is really, really important. So yes, language and then funds and then equipment. So.
Great, thank you. And I mean, I think it's a good, definitely a good point. And those of you who do have, capacity strengthening opportunities, the Rafford Foundation is a fantastic organization that supports, conservation across developing countries. And they are always, really encouraging to give advice and feedback. And they have provided, training. There's also the BCI's grant as well, and those other ones. So actually, in fact, Ben is the first African grantee from the Bat Conservation Trust Cape Barlow Award. It's quite a new award, and I know Kirsty. Yeah, she's also she's on the BCT board, but she is also head of our board, and she was absolutely delighted. She said, actually, the caliber of the grant was fantastic, and she was saying that this is an opportunity we could, be supporting each other, to try and, like you say, to develop those skills. So that's really great to hear. So I think we've come to the end of our question time, but thank you very, very much for a great overview. We do have a final really nice comment from Kat, who said it's not a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for what an amazing initiative. Most of us have only made it into ecology fieldwork thanks to the experience we have been lucky enough to have in the field, which initially sparked our interest. So well done for this very important work. And actually that is very true. We have all had support. So it's really,
thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Ben. So I don't know if you have any final comments before we close the talk.
I'm just gonna say thank you everyone for coming in. It's really hard. I had to wake up very early because the timing just does my head in. It was a few months ago. It was 8 a.m. and now suddenly it's 7 a.m. So we lost 1 hour. So yeah, I'm very happy. I thank everyone for logging in, especially people from the US, because it's a very, very, very difficult time for them in terms of timing, the time zone. Yeah, so but everyone who has logged in, thank you very much. And I'm always happy to talk with people. If you would really want to be part of our co-supervisory pool, where you would like to co-supervise our students in Nigeria, we would really, really be very happy. And so don't be scared. usually for what we do is, for our current co-supervisors, is we are like a go-between, right? So we have to see the materials before it gets to you. So you don't get a first draft for anything. We clean it up a bit, make few comments for the students, so, and then they improve it, and then perhaps make another comment, and then it gets, so before it gets to your table, it's well, relatively good. So it's some work, but it's not too much work. So please, if you would really want to collaborate with any of our students, that would really be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. So if anybody would like, I can put you in touch with Ben. I've got his email. Or if Ben, you want to put your email in chat, by all means. And that's a really nice way, like you said, to have an international kind of influence as well, but supporting to build capacity in country, which, as you've just heard, is really vital for long-term, conservation efforts. And really, if we don't build the skill in country, then, it's not going to have any long-term sustainability. And this is a really lovely way to do that. So we've also recommended to some students that even if they don't have an opportunity, sometimes to afford to go and study in overseas, is that actually even to put in their grant to visit a lab. And it's actually quite nice for them just to have an opportunity, or to actually invite somebody to come and work with them. So who knows, Ben, you might be getting invites all over Africa to come and visit and develop skills, which would be brilliant too.
I'll be very happy to do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I know it's been a really very difficult year, so thanks for the support with the webinars. And also thank you very much to our speakers who've given up so much time and to share their sort of knowledge and passion about backed conservation and capacity development. And we look forward to welcoming you all back next year. Take care.
All right. Bye, everyone.